Morning, everyone. Very interestingly, today's session is very symbolic and I would say overwhelming for us. Uh, while you can hear my voice to be a bit hoarse, that's because of the sore throat and a bit of cold I'm carrying. So, pardon me in terms of my voice and a bit of hoarseness in the voice. Uh, Having said that, I think this session is unique. Unique because we are celebrating a century of Knowledge Insight series sessions, and 100 weeks plus is what we've been bringing the best of the breed, top notch, marquee, seasoned AI analytics leaders. And Of late, this has become the most sought after, I would say, series in terms of imparting knowledge by almost 82 leaders who represented over the last 100 weeks. I would like to cover this particular session into two dimensions. One dimension is talking about 3AI because we have achieved some significant milestones in 3AI over the last, I would say, 2.5 years. And 30 months is a lot. And I want to talk about that and also overlay some of the programs, interventions, and some of the big ticket items, what we have as a part of our scaling up. Uh, Other thing which I would like to kind of talk about, which to me has never been discussed in a public forum or never gets, I would say, so profoundly discussed, is about building thought leadership in AI analytics ecosystem. Let me take the three IPs first, and then I'll dwell upon the main session. So 3AI, in fact, I remember as a part of Serendipity, some of us brainstormed in January 2020, just before the onset of COVID, that look, when you know the people and the ecosystem, when you know the AI analytics thought leaders in the ecosystem, how can you bring them together? We wanted a platform which is a confluence of AI analytics leaders. I mean, the leaders which are, I would say, from GCCs, consulting companies, tech firms, BPM players, pure play analytics players, cloud companies, and even I would say niche and boutique startups. And over the last, I would say, few years, the landscape of analytics, AI, data science has expanded uh, multifold. And the reason I say that this is the fastest increasing, I would say, segment in terms of any other exponential technologies, a segment which is closer to about 200 billion, growing at a whopping CAGR of 19%. In India, we have almost about 1.2 million professionals employed in AI analytics data science segment. There are already 300,000 plus open positions. There are 320 pure play analytics players in this particular segment outside of the other consulting boutique firms which are doing AI analytics. So there is a lot which is happening in this segment. Now, bringing thought leaders is not just about meet and greet. It's not about wine and dine. It's not about just getting them over the breakfast meeting and saying, look, we have aggregated the thought leaders and it's great. I think the platform per se not only should bring the thought leaders, but also should bring the ecosystem players. I mean, there are many aspirants today. There are many data savants today. There are connoisseurs, aficionados, and there are also working professionals who are not only within analytics, AI, data science, but they're at the fringes. They would like to learn about, know about, absorb what's happening in the art of possible with AI analytics. And I go back to a stage, a bit of anecdote. I started my career 24 years back with Gillette, and at that point of time, I had no clue what analytics, AI, data science is all about. I was leading the whole global, I would say, business planning and research, and the only thing which I remember as a part of very clear indication of thought process was MIS. MIS, which is absolutely, I would say, a refined one-pager report which captures the essential metrics of the organization, and that's it. I mean, then came ERP, which for the first time the functional data of the businesses started talking to each other, and ERP led to what I call a surfeit of business intelligence data warehousing tools. uh, Cognos, Teradata, MicroStrategy. These tools essentially led to the emergence of big data. And that was the first big, I would say, announcement we could see in the world of analytics. Then came the whole genre of analytics, as we call it, right from descriptive to diagnostic to predictive to prescriptive, which is where, for the first time, enterprises woke up and started realizing that it's beyond analytics, is beyond pattern recognition, finding anomalies. It's also at a utopian stage of making organizations fathom the things before it happens, preempt the scenarios. Now, then it led to, after big data, coming back to the evolution of analytics AI, after big data, there was the surfeit of, I would say, these analytics, I would say, chronology. Then came data science, and now we are talking about artificial intelligence. And this is for the first time uh, the machine and human interface has been talked about. And alongside this human machine equation rebalancing, as I call it, there is also a larger debate about the explainable AI or the ethics. And I always keep on saying, look, AI analytics wouldn't have evolved if the ethics wouldn't have been in place. For the ones who are professionals, practitioners, subject matter expertise in analytics AI, we've always built models with a champion challenger kind of an approach. We've also built models with a very clear protocols, SOPs, and guidelines. So it's not that the models are rogue or they start with a very open ended kind of a concept. But the fact, what I'm trying to kind of articulate is there's a lot of, I would say, juice which is still in analytics AI. I mean, if we take a global scenario, only 72% of the Fortune 500 companies have embarked upon the AI journey, and within that 72%, only 20% of the organizations are actually moving at a very faster pace in terms of agnostic of the business function. So, which means enterprise-wide AI still has a lot of scope, opportunity, and a lot of, I would say, proliferation which can be achieved. Second, there is a big void today in terms of what I call evangelizing the AI versus what I say what's on the ground, because often we start building some POCs, some interventions of AI. Uh, that's not linked to the business objectives. That's not linked to the business priorities or strategic orientation of the organization. Now that's a big void. I advise a lot of boards, CXOs, senior leaders today in terms of evangelizing or curating our AI strategy. And one of the biggest observation is there is a gap at the top in terms of adequate understanding of AI. And it's not to blame because the proliferation of exponential technologies as a part of, I would say, mindshare optics have happened just in the last few years. What it means, the boards, the CXOs, the senior leaders had no choice but to start going deep into that. But now, for that to happen, they need to understand what I call how AI influences their strategies, business processes, customer experience, and also transform their business. Now, look what fintech has done for the banking or insurtech or health tech. We keep on saying that every company today is a technology company. I've seen some of the CXOs in their earnings call talk about that their company, despite being into the business from last 150 years, uh, is a tech company. Well, the fact is that to be a tech company, I mean, the underpinning of that tech company has to be analytics AI, which means at a foundational level, uh, the processes should have AI analytics embedded. Now, you can see that in my narrative, I use AI analytics in the same continuum. That's a reflection of the maturity of the organization because the AI first organizations have everything figured out in terms of the best of the algorithms already seeped into the business processes, influencing or reimagining customer experience, transforming the business processes, and even innovating product and services through analytics AI. Now, that's not the case with what I call the brick and mortar or established businesses today. I have many of my friends who are the chief analytics officers of the organizations which have been there in the businesses from last 30, 40, 50 years. Uh, they're still talking about digital transformation. Now, digital transformation to me is a very amorphous, esoteric kind of a word or a sentence or a definition, because everything is digital. But if you look under the hood, organizations are trying to challenge today their decision making through analytics AI. I give this particular example often, but I want to talk about that once more. As a human being, we are predictably irrational. As a human being, we are predictably irrational. We take about 60 odd decisions on any given day: strategic, tactical, operational. What's my plan after this particular session? What is that I'm going to do in terms of my career? What's my relationship kind of, let's say, guidance, which I need to navigate? Now, some of these decisions, even at a personal or corporate level, we are taking on a daily basis. Now, the fact over there is that majority of our decisions are being taken by intuition, gut, historical evidences, hearsay, or this has happened in the past, let's kind of do it again. And it's actually, or even influenced by our friends, colleagues, and spouses. Now, the fact today is that algorithms are pervading our life, our, I would say, decision making, even at a boardroom level and an enterprise level. Because look at this, if the algorithms have already suggested in terms of what has happened in the past and what is going to happen, the larger linearity of thought in terms of decision making would always be, let's go with fact, let's go with data, and let the organization be, as we call it, data driven. Now, this is a utopian situation many of the organizations are trying to kind of infer as part of driving their data driven transformation, not digital driven transformation. We always keep on saying the data sets are disparate, the data quality is not that good. That's always going to happen when you have the, I mean, it's akin to, let me also build an analogy. I mean, preparing a right blend of tea in the Indian context is an art. I mean, all it requires in a very simplistic term is just about water, tea, milk, and sugar, if at all you are not diabetic or you are not averse to sugar. But the fact is that how many times you get the right concoction of tea per your taste. This is exactly what I talk about analytics in terms of the data. Often I have talked about organizations, or rather, I've heard about organizations, CXOs, GCC owners, ruining the fact, oh, data set is not right, data quality is, look, that's an evolving process. You will never find the right ingredients in a very, very, I would say, steady state. But the fact over there is that, are you able to relate to the strategic orientation, business priorities, and correlate that in terms of what is the derivative output you want to achieve with the usage of analytics AI? And this is where thought leadership comes in. This is where strategic orientation of our AI analytics leader comes in. And that's not in abundance. So let me hold the thoughts of each one of you over there, and I'll talk about that building thought leadership and analytics AI ecosystem. Let me go back to 3AI. So when we created this platform, and the platform also, with the course of time, have seen various evolution, because when you start something with serendipity, many a times these things click, because too much of a planning also sometimes lead to, I would say, inability for us to think, I would say, in a future forward kind of a manner. So some of us, when we came together, the whole idea was to first get the best, top of the breed, top notch, marquee, seasoned AI analytics leaders. And we're very, very proud of the kind of leadership what we have in terms of these 500 plus AI analytics thought leaders we have on the platform. Uh, while many of them are my acquaintances, friends, and dear, I would say colleagues, with whom I worked in the past, but many of them have come on this platform uh, purely because they find this platform offers them, in I would say, immense opportunities, not only to interact, not only to network, not only to kind of absorb uh, insights from the other leaders, but it's also about enhancing, or what I call accentuating, their mind share. Now, there is a difference over there. It's not about, okay, Mr. XYZ, Mrs. XYZ, or Miss XYZ, come over there, talk about something around analytics AI. Whenever we have actually invited any thought leader in analytics AI or influencer, The sessions, the talks have always been curated. And the examples what I want to give to that, akin to what exists in the market, everyone wants to do high quality events. Everyone want to talk about high octane kind of, let's say, summits, conferences, symposium. It's not about the location. It's not about booking a five-star hotel, wine and dine, getting to network. It's about the content. Let me tell you, you can bring the best of the people together in a room, offer them the best of the food and the best of the wine. But what about the conversations? What about the thought process? And this is something which consciously uh, we have curated, which is each and every thought leader of the 500 what we have on this platform. When they come, when they kind of speak, when they attend our, I would say, talks, the sessions are curated with us. We help identify or ascertain their personas. And every leader has a different persona. Every individual have a different kind of an appeal in terms of what he or she wants to bring to the table. And that persona leads us to identify what I call the strengths of that leader in the areas where he or she wants to demonstrate and exude thought leadership. And that's important. Think of this. We are all amongst thousands and millions of the AI analytics leaders within the ecosystem globally. If I talk about the same what everyone is talking, who would listen to me? How would I get to create a mind share? And this is what often the analytics AI leaders uh, fail to realize. I mean, they often kind of, through a relative comparison or with the peer pressure, try to kind of see someone being very vocal on LinkedIn, very, very, I would say, demonstrated on Instagram, and very much visible on Facebook. But what about the thought process? It's not about just posting pictures, post updates, or some kind of, let's say, random content. And I think that's where many of the thought leaders, aspiring ones, many of the leaders in analytics AI ecosystem, many of the managers, senior executives need to understand leadership in analytics AI can never be enforced, can never be compared. It's never anointed. You start acquiring it only through a demonstration. Then you get into a phase where you start understanding what your audience wants. And let me also tell you, it's a perishable commodity. Unless you're topical, unless you're contemporary, unless you are absolutely up to the date, thought leadership goes away. It fizzles out. Think of this Bollywood, Hollywood industry. The new set of actors kind of come in and they just take the surface out from the established actors. And what does the established actors do? They actually create a persona, a niche of their own. Some of these actors take a certain genre of movies and just excel in that. Some of these actors really talk about creating a new acting methodology in their own entire disposition. And that's exactly what thought leadership and analytics AI ecosystem is all about. Now, coming back to 3AI, and I'll keep switching between 3AI and establishing thought leadership in AI analytics ecosystem. With 17,000 members today, uh, I think we have come a long and a far way. And 17,000 members is a mix of students, working professionals, aspirants, savants, connoisseurs, leaders from almost, I would say, 600 to 700 organizations, which are a mix of GCCs, global Indian enterprises, uh, BPM tech companies, consulting, cloud players, pure play analytics players, and uh, startups as well. Now, think of this, how today we have transformed or are trying to transform, because we never say that we have achieved I would say a zenith. There's a lot of, I would say, scope of opportunities, and we keep our eyes and ears absolutely to the ground in terms of taking those feedbacks and incorporating that not only in our platform but in our processes, in our interventions. Now, coming back, when I was talking about getting these leaders on a forum, usually if you see from a market landscape, folks have annual events, XYZ, 2021, 22, 23. Leaders come in, talk about kind of a particular kind of a, let's say, area, do a kind of a meet and greet, they go away. We have created top notch, this is what I call it, large scale format events. 7 of these properties, I mean, E3, XR3, Technology Never Dies, Epiphany. Some of these events are path breaking. Each of these set of large scale format events were curated from ground zero, which means there was no precedence from the past, there was no kind of a baseline. We went ahead in terms of curating these large scale events from a particular assumption that look, everything is a short term in terms of analytics here and what is trending, what is topical, contemporary today. That is the kind of a ingredient we need to mix in these events to make it much more amenable to our 17,000 members, the 3R members. Now, that's another point when you have so much of a large membership base, and I keep on saying with a lighter wind that the next time when we would like to meet, if at all we that's possible, we would like to have this meeting of 17,000 members and 500 AI leaders, maybe in a stadium, because it's not possible to kind of get them in one location, in a one hotel, in a one kind of a conference room. But more importantly, that's why the virtual medium enhances and works a lot for us in terms of bringing everyone together. Now, the fact over there is that these 7 to 8 large scale event, what we have done, and the eighth one, which is coming now, is also very path breaking, what we call an event which is coming from when I was watching these OTT series. There is a lot of OTT series which have started focusing on bringing one theme in a mode which is narrated by different directors and what they call as anthology series. Now, this exactly was the genesis of this event, what we are trying to do actually. And this event is all about what we say that look, how uh, 25 leaders are coming together. One common theme is about the art of possible with AI, because everyone today, irrespective of the kind of organization they're working in, the AI analytics landscape is talking about with their stakeholders, customers, that what's the art of possible which can be demonstrated, which can be exhibited or showcased by analytics AI. And that's exactly what this event will be all about, which is what I call AIism. And you will find a lot of our events carry a very quirky, very kind of a hutke, if I call it, kind of a, let's say, tags, because we believe bringing novelty, a lot of differentiation, a lot of, I would say, uh, contemplation in our events. AIism will bring 25 best of the breed thought leaders in analytics AI. Each one of them will talk about uh, their own understanding of AI insights, analytics kind of perspectives, topical areas, but that narrative will be just 5 to 8 minutes. And we've been consciously taking feedback from our 17,000 members over the years that look, gone are the days where you can get the leaders in a 45 minutes, 1 hour virtual conference or a round table and expect the audience to be glued in. To me, I think gone are the days. I think we're all living in a quick fix, 2 minutes kind of a, let's say, world where everything needs to be imparted in a very quick, swift turnaround time. And that's where these 5 to 8 minute talks stitched together in a 3 hour kind of a show with fillers, with other supplements, and some uh, announcements, what we are trying to bring along with our Pinnacle Awards kind of a thing, will give a very panoramic, landscaping, but a very, I would say, great opportunities for our viewers, our members who would be watching this particular event to kind of understand what's happening in the world of analytics AI through the lens of 25 leaders. Never that has it happened in any particular event. I mean, we took an event, Epiphany, which was based on last year about what's happening in the world of uncertainty, as we call the VUCA world, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and make them realize how analytics AI could be a Trojan horse or could be a harbinger of growth during difficult times. Now, such events, we believe, are only coming through because we are listening through the pulse of our members. Each and every member is important to us. And that's the reason we put, take, I would say, pride in not only kind of coming out with the best of the differentiated, well-crafted events, expert talks, roundtables, fireside chat, anthology series, demystifying career in analytics AI series, but also in terms of the content. We have close to about 1,500 blogs, articles, featured, I would say, content from different analytics AI leaders. Not only that, we have also put solution accelerators, which has been enabled by many of the leaders who had gone ahead and created some mock-ups, some kind of MVPs, uh, essentially about kind of creating some problem solving approach of different industries or business functions in terms of analytics AI. And they have actually put and demonstrated as a part of solution accelerators in our content. And this is something which is not available anyway, kind of a thing. Plus, thousands hours of playback sessions of our previous events recordings in 3R Flex channel. It's one of the most, I would say, immersive and engrossing channel. If you get some time off from watching the regular OTT channel, please invest some time in listening or rather viewing this 3R Flex channel. The other thing which we have put on the platform, 3R platform, is 3R search. So me and NK, when we were thinking about the various programs, what we have in the market, the learning programs in the market, and I have been personally very, I would say, uh, closely involved in working with many of the tech companies in the past, and I've seen how they curate the curriculum, how they kind of impart that through different what we call uh, teaching or assessment pedagogies. And that's where, when me and NK did some analysis, we found there are three different pedagogies in terms of learning. And it's very interesting. The pedagogy is what we are all used to in terms of learning in our formative years, is all about what we call an approach which is, okay, instructor driven, which is whatever instructor tell us, we kind of used to do that. I mean, whether it's about opening the book or solving a problem, getting to a particular page of a book, and okay, it's an instructor-led approach. Then came something called entergogy, which is where the virtual medium started putting the content, kind of a thing. Uh, it became more, I would say, vociferous in terms of edtech companies coming out and saying, look, this is what the courses are offered on online. And so offline became online in terms of the content, the learning content. Now, there is an approach which, after pedagogy and andragogy, which is not being talked about today, but to me, it's the forthcoming or the next evolution in learning and education, heutagogy. Heutagogy is all about, and I take some analogy from, again, watching Netflix, Amazon, OTT, and most of us have done a lot of binge watching during the uh, Netflix during the pandemic and the lockdown time, and that's where most of my analogies are coming in. If I'm looking at a particular genre of a content, let's say over Netflix, my wife looks at some other genre, my daughter looks at some other genre. Why we need to watch the content at the same time, the same content? It's like coming in front of the TV. Go back to the time where we all the family members were compelled to watch the same kind of a show because there was only one particular TV. When the TV got multiplied, new channels came in the satellite. Now it's a question of OTT, which means the OTT companies are going back to the production houses, broadcasting companies, because they're very kind of, let's say, agile recommendation engines, and are telling the broadcasting kind of a companies and production houses produce this kind of a content because this is being more watched by the viewers as compared to the other genre of content. This is exactly what 3I Surge is all about. Heutagogy approach, which is what we call the next phase in meta learning. Transformative programs. I mean, programs which are built up in the format of slide decks. I mean, these are not about kind of turning pages of the book, or this is just akin to you are walking into a kind of a corporate presentation. Each and every program, whether it's about supply chain analytics, AI and talent, or HR, or let's say data engineering program, or marketing and digital marketing analytics program, These are all slide deck driven, but what each and every slide carry, which is of immense significance, is a very topical content, which is in the form of a TOC, a table of content. Each and every slide, in terms of the footer, also carries the external references, bibliography, the videos, and the, I would say, digital reading, what you need to do. And the sum total of the aggregated slides in terms of stitching together is self-paced, which means if you're spending, let's say, 2 slides per day, you can refer to 2 slides next day. So it's very self-paced kind of a program. Other interesting thing is that there are a lot of industry use case, proven kind of a case studies in analytics. The case studies which have been attempted in different organizations have been demonstrated over there. Of course, the client names have been masked and absolutely confidential, but you can realize the kind of industry segments in terms of how they're consuming or adopting analytics. Now, this particular piece, which is 3I search, we call it, is revolutionary because none of the organizations in edtech or I would say learning have actually been able to reach to that depth of what I call inch wide, mile deep in terms of contextualization. And this is what our endeavor has been across 3AI as we start working on talent advocacy programs for different organizations or brand building or positioning or capability augmentation of different organizations. Today, I think if we look at the needs of GCCs, Indian global enterprises, uh, uh, startups, pure play analytics firms, uh, or even tech companies, cloud companies, BPM companies, there is a clamor in the market today. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be uh, kind of, let's say, getting witnessed. Look at the content which is getting streamed on LinkedIn. It's absolutely, I would say, out of the whack where people are posting their personal scenarios just to grab views. Is that thought leadership? And some of these leaders are 20 years in analytics AI. I mean, I don't think so. That will actually sustain and bring an element of thought leadership in the kind of, let's say, genre you want to establish. And that brings to the dimension which I want to stress upon and build some time in terms of how do you build, establish, scale thought leadership in analytics AI ecosystem. I relate to my journey, and this is something which is anecdotal. Uh, when I was running the GCC for Fidelity as a country head, uh, we used to do a lot of things, technology, analytics, operations, as a part of our shared service or GCC. And often the stress was upon cost arbitrage. And I'm talking about 2007, 2008. Then immediately the shift came in scalability. Immediately then the shift in terms of the GCC came in terms of capability. Today the GCCs are all about what I call the Trojan horses for innovation and transformation. Then I started realizing that look, the world is fast evolving. And as a leader, when you start gaining experience in terms of the years, in terms of the day, not only you as a part of, I would say, uh, a leadership, not only you need to kind of start imparting or disseminating that knowledge, you also need to kind of earn that level of respect and credibility in the market. And earning respect and credibility as part of thought leadership can never be compelled or enforced. And that was a time I remember when I had joined Cognizant as a part of global head of analytics and data science. The first thing which struck me was about thought leadership. Cognizant was in the, and that was the time it was scaling up quite fast, but they were not seen in the analytics landscape. There was a competition from consulting firms, other tech firms, BPM players, pure play analytics players, startups, boutique firms. And unless you create a niche of your own, you will never be successful. And that was the time I realized that niche came in when I started writing blogs. Every week, I spend a couple of hours over a weekend thinking about, with my conversations of almost 3,000 customers I met across the globe in that particular phase of 5 years, what are customers thinking or kind of cogitating or mulling or ruminating about analytics here? And that was the time I realized that if you squeeze the nuggets of the conversation which is coming from prospects and customers. There's an immense learning you can gain as a part of creating the thought leadership of your own. Now, those 150 blocks, when I wrote, was stitched together in the form of a WordPress where I started disseminating. That was the time I started attending many of the events as part of imparting my knowledge in terms of these blogs. But I realized that there is still something missing. And the whole, I would say, call at that point of time in my mind was can we make it big in terms of creating a next level of thought leadership? Then the opportunity, and thanks to Wiley and the leadership at Wiley, which came in, Mr. Vikas Gupta, gave me an opportunity to write a book. And that book, to me, was a game changing piece for me because uh, 2018, when the book got published, it was the first book which talked about decision making at scale with analytics and AI at the corporate or the enterprise level. Because at that point of time, everyone was thinking about solving problems with analytics AI, but what game changing thing what came in as a part of new theory which I propagated was how does the decisions in the corporate are getting challenged or getting influenced by analytics and what it means in terms of creation of this what I call algorithmic economy in the time to come. Now that book led to a lot of speaking engagements, but one of the things I realized it's not about the quantum of speaking engagements you're part of. So you can go to any event, you get invited to multiple because there are a lot of these mushrooming of what I call commoditized, uh, absolutely non-differentiated forums, events. Uh, I would say associations which have come up, which are asking you to come and speak on a daily basis. I'm sure you have, when you look at this particular LinkedIn today in your I would say messages or Gmails or personal mails, you'll find tons of invites coming in. Okay, come here and speak. What exactly they want you to speak? Have you ever asked them? How does it means in terms of the target audience? What kind of target audience are they bringing? Is it the kind of a, let's say, mid-level there? I'm talking more from a sense of the thought leaders who are listening this particular session who have achieved a significant milestone in terms of their career. You want a certain genre of target audience. It's not to do with all due regards that students should not be there or aspirants, but it's also about crafting your thought process per the target audience and how differentiated you are. Let me give you some understanding today. Many of the thought leaders talk about technology, but the target audience in that room are the business leaders. Do they understand the technology interventions what are happening in analytics here? Well, not. Second, if you are too much focused on business side of analytics AI without the, I would say, infusion of how AI analytics technologies are also changing, then your talk will not be fulfilling. Third, what are you trying to hint in terms of you as a leader? Are you a leader who's a well-rounded kind of a leader? Are you a leader who's focused on kind of a one particular business function through analytics AI? Are you a leader which is focused on one particular industry? Now, some of these ruminations you have to do when you start attempting building thought leadership and analytics AI. When I was invited for 5 TED Talks, I was very clear none of these TED Talks will be alike. The only thing common you would see if you take the recordings of my TikTok, maybe my some of the dresses I've worn could be alike. At the end of the day, I don't have 5 business jackets in terms of the apparel set what I have in my closet. But more importantly, these 5 different talks carry different content, different narration, different way I was even building my own vocal kind of an understanding in terms of the softness or the kind of loudness in the voice I need to bring to the table, and even different hand gesture. So there was a very clear attempt not to kind of journalize the TED Talks, also bring in very different flavors in terms of the TED Talks, in terms of the insights, and some way bring takeaways for the audience. Now, thought leadership is also about what I call creating. and this is very important for all of you to understand, creating a very credible point of view. A point of view is your own, what I call thought rumination, which comes in with your understanding of the market landscape, customer landscape in analytics AI. And that only comes in when you have solved real, or what I call large, complex, unresolved problems for the clients using analytics AI. And that's where I keep on saying thought leadership in many of the leaders today is a vaporware. They haven't solved problems, real time engagements using analytics AI, tools, techniques. Sometimes it's best to get hands on, get to that last mile of attending some of these Kaggle problems, and then attempt to speak in some of the forums, because you'll be able to relate how hard some of these problems are to not only solve but to adopt in the organization. And that's the reason why I keep on saying only 1 out of 7 algorithms, when it gets created in the organization, gets implemented. Why organizations are struggling today to adopt analytics enterprise at scale? Because there is not enough credible, I would say, toolkits, methodologies, or framework which talks about AI enterprise at scale. And this is exactly what is happening in what I call thought leadership aspect of the AI analytics leaders. The point of view is missing. You need to stand for one point of view, and what I call in political terms ideology. Ideologies are your own. It has to be manifested with the kind of a mind share you have created by, again, solving large, complex, unresolved problems of the clients. Could be Indian global clients or even GCC. Establish that point of view when you kind of talk about anything in a forum, when you write about anything in any kind of a blog or a content, or when you kind of put some snippets or what I call bit-sized bites somewhere, keep reinforcing that point of view. And that point of view, when it gets splashed, amplified, and it's profound, will create a thought leadership of your own. That's to me is a thought leadership, not at scale, but personalized thought leadership. As a leader, as an individual, don't attempt to imitate or copy someone. That will not lead to a sustainable, scalable thought leadership in analytics here. So many times I've heard many of the thought leaders, aspiring ones or established ones, approaching me and saying, look, Samir, why is this guy in so many forums getting splashed everywhere? Look, it's not about quantum. People memories is absolutely razor thin nowadays. Very short, very brief. It can only get enhanced in terms of creating your own mind share when you're reinforcing that particular point of view and saying, look, this is what I stands for in analytics here. And let me tell you, that will stand tall in terms of your organization also realizing that, look, as a leader, you stand for one particular point of view, which also immensely benefits the organization. Could be in terms of increased revenue share or a market share, or in terms of more clients, or even in terms of more, I would say, credibility for them in the organization. And let's not take out that fact that many of the analytics AI organizations today, big, large, or small, have started creating what I call the next level of thought leaders, influencers. Influencers, if you see, are coming from one particular direction, reinforcing and hammering one point of view and amplifying that at scale. Some of the influencers are talking about enterprise AI, some of them are talking about decision making with AI, some of them are talking about ethical AI, some of them are talking about the new age technology in an AI. But that's a manifestation what they've created as part of distilling their own persona and coming back and saying, look, this is what I can do best, and that's why I can demonstrate best. And that's the reason I always say that comparisons, relative kind of, let's say, scalability doesn't work. You have, as an individual, have your own personality trait. And that personality trait, once curated in terms of the kind of point of view you need to kind of demonstrate, gets manifested as a part of your thought process. And that thought process, when it comes out in the forums, resonates with the target audience. Because let's also realize our target audience could be the existing AI analytics leaders, working professionals, or even aspirants in, uh, I would say, analytics AI, or even the students are smart. Today, they know who actually can actually talk sense, what I call it in a real man. And it's never about diction, it's never about pronunciation, it's not about articulation. Of course, you need to articulate, and that's where the practice comes in. That's where about what I always say that look, you got to practice your own style, how you are putting together efforts in terms of your own personality, disposition, articulation, and that's something to me is a combination of science, which is about creating your own persona, and art, which is about the art of imparting. Practice it. Give some thought about, rather than just putting some random post or random kind of a content on LinkedIn or some of the social channels. Give some thought about how you can build your own thought leadership. And thought leadership at scale goes through a journey. A journey which always starts at a very infancy level. It takes time to reach that particular inflection level, and it takes further time to get amplified. But once it's at an amplification stage, it will sustain for years, because all of us would leave digital trails in terms of how we exude ourselves on the social media for years. And this is where I keep on seeing analytics and AI ecosystem industry have a lot to learn, have a lot to kind of understand that look, this is an area which will last for multi years, and maybe I would say 15, 20 years. So why not build some credible point of view from each one of us, which creates not just amplification, but leaves a legacy. And this is exactly what I personally believe, that as leaders who've been into this field for 10, 12, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, we got to we got to actually leave a legacy in terms of what we have done in analytics. And legacy is all about the impact you have created for the clients and organization stakeholders, and putting that as a part of your thought of, I would say, point of view, and ensuring you articulate well and it gets captured in the right forum. At 3AI, our endeavor, while always is to become large, so that we look at creating more channels and forums for our members, but it's also about creating the best of the bespoke thought leadership for our AI analytics, not only existing leaders, for aspirants, and even for working population, because thought leadership is not a factorial or a derivative of experience. It's all about how you can actually stand up, stand tall, and be seen with your own differentiated viewpoint and persona. And before I wind up, there are series of interventions which are coming up from 3R platform. As you know, we are actually have a knack of doing a lot many interventions which we believe are a part of the feedback loop what we have attained or obtained from our, I would say, 17,000 plus members. Uh, Before I actually wind up this particular session, we are going global. We 3i would actually be seen in different geographies outside of India. Today, we are the India's largest platform for AI analytics leaders, aspirants, and professionals. But soon, we are opening new forums in new geographies, and that exactly would stretch our wings and also gives us new opportunities to kind of put new interventions in new geographies. And also, it's a good segue and a platform for our existing thought leaders and members to meet, network, and also listen and absorb from, I would say, multiple thought leaders across the globe. Second, most important, uh, thank you so much for your patronage. This entire attempt, which was serendipity, has now become a rallying cry for each one of our members, our, I would say, co-founders, also the team behind 3i, and also for leaders, because I get so many feedback and I would say good responses from them. This wouldn't have been possible without your immense support, your contribution, your feedback, and your immense, I would say, well wishes. I mean, because each one of you have taken a cognizant of what we are trying to do. As we always keep on saying, our first attempt is to fill a void in this ecosystem of analytics AI to enhance the leadership. Second, bring uh, the aspirants and working professionals in analytics AI closer to the leaders. And third, create a rallying cry for AI analytics industry. And that's the reason we are very, very, I would say, conscious of the feedback what you all provide. Keep writing feedback to us and keep uh, listening to our different, I would say, leaders podcast, or I would say interventions, different programs. We are coming out with, as I mentioned earlier, a very differentiated uh, uh, large-scale event on July 8th, which is where it will be streamed. AISM, 25 leaders talking about one particular theme of art of possible. And keep back writing to us. You can always view www.3i.in. And last but not the least, thank you so much again, and wish you all the best for your future. Thank you again.